Hey guys, welcome back to the Own Your Identity podcast. Have you ever felt like you're just too much for people, or maybe not enough? Like your personality, your struggles, or your past make you a burden, a liability, or someone who just doesn't fit? Maybe you've thought, I'm too emotional, too needy, too feminine, too weak, or too far gone. If that's you, I want you to know you're not alone. You are not too much for God, and you are more than enough in Christ. My name is Jason Mellard. I'm a certified high performance coach and the founder of Own Your Identity. I'm committed to empowering men to live beyond their unwanted same sex attractions and into their purpose through the power of Christ and for the glory of God. I'm going to break down the fear of being too much into three categories: the fear of rejection, the fear of judgment, and the fear of condemnation. I'll share with you some stories along the way that I think will help you see yourself and your worth through a new lens. Let's start with the fear of rejection. This is the belief that if people really saw you, your emotions, your longings, your struggles, they'd push you away. I've been there. When I was a kid, I was sensitive and quiet. I felt things deeply, but I learned early on that my emotions were not always welcome. My dad often didn't have the capacity to handle my sensitivity, and so I shut down. I thought, if I just stay quiet, I'll stop feeling so much. Maybe I won't be too much for him. I won't be rejected, or worse, dismissed. But here's what I've learned. Our emotions are not flaws. Our needs are not weakness. They're part of what makes us human. And more than that, they're part of what makes us capable of deep connection with God, with others, and with ourselves. What if, instead of seeing our emotions and longings as something to hide, we saw them as a gift? What if they are the very things that allow us to love and be loved more fully? Where in your life have you been shutting down or hiding because you're afraid of being rejected? And what would it look like to show up fully, trusting that your emotions, personality, and longings are not too much? Next, let's talk about the fear of judgment. This is the belief that if people saw certain parts of you, maybe the way you move, speak, or express yourself, they'd label you, criticize you, or dismiss you. I've been there too. I grew up constantly monitoring myself, my gestures, my tone, the way I walked. I was scared that if I was too expressive or appeared feminine, that people would judge me as gay. So I tried to shrink myself to fit into a narrow box of what I thought a man was supposed to be. But in doing that, I lost much of my joy, my authenticity, and my ability to connect with others. The truth is, God didn't create us to fit into a box. He created us to be fully, uniquely ourselves. And what if the things that we're afraid of being judged for are actually the things that make us beautiful, strong, and capable of making a unique difference in the world? What if the courage to be ourselves is what inspires others to do the same? What God-given parts of yourself have you been hiding or suppressing because you're afraid of being judged? And what would it look like to embrace those parts as gifts from God? And let's talk about the fear of condemnation. This could be the belief that your past, your mistakes, your struggles have disqualified you from God's love and grace. Maybe you've thought, I'm too far gone, or I've made too many mistakes. A friend of mine grew up in a church where he was told that having same-sex attraction was one of the worst things you could experience. And when he acted on those attractions, he was told he was beyond redemption. He believed that lie for years, that he was condemned, that he was unworthy of forgiveness, that he was too broken for God to love him. But here's the truth. There is no sin too big for God's grace, no past too messy for his redemption. The Bible is full of stories of people who thought they were too far gone. As a believer in Christ, God doesn't see you as the sum of your mistakes. He sees you as his child, worthy of love, forgiveness, and a future filled with hope. So what lies have you been believing about your worth and your redemption? And what would it look like to replace those lies with the truth of God's grace? I know it's scary. It's scary to be vulnerable and to be uniquely ourselves, to be authentic. It's scary for me because I have been rejected and judged in my past. I have felt condemned. And I want to take a moment to really honor the weight of what many of us have carried. For those of you who faced rejection, judgment, or condemnation in the past, whether from people you've trusted, communities you thought would support you, or even your own inner voice, I want to say this clearly. What happened to you was not okay. That pain is real, and it deserves to be acknowledged. I honor it with you. But I also want you to know that your past doesn't define your future. The rejection, judgment, condemnation, they don't get the final say. You do. And stepping forward doesn't mean you have to leap into the spotlight all at once. It's about taking small, courageous steps at your own pace, honoring where you are while moving forward towards where you want to be. But how do you start? First, give yourself permission to feel. Healing begins when we stop suppressing our emotions and start processing them. Get a counselor or a coach, journal, talk to God and trusted friends. Capture your thoughts and compare them with the truth. Second, set boundaries. If there are people or environments that continue to hurt you, it's okay to create space. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out. They're about protecting your peace and creating room for growth. Third, celebrate small wins. Courage is not about taking massive leaps every day. It's about showing up, even in the smallest ways. Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting, sharing a piece of your story with someone you trust, or simply looking in the mirror and saying, I am a beloved Son of God, a God who joyfully created me and delights in me. Remember this. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's moving forward despite it. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to take the next right step. So what's one small, courageous step you can take this week to honor your journey and move toward healing? And how can you remind yourself that it's okay to go at your own pace? When the fears of judgment, rejection, or condemnation take root, the natural response is to dim our light and hide. We shrink ourselves. We try to blend in. We stop expressing who we really are because we think, if I just stay small, maybe I'll be safe. But hiding does not protect us. It imprisons us. When we dim our light, we're not just keeping ourselves from others seeing us. We're keeping ourselves from fully living. We're cutting off the very parts of us that God created to shine. And what if, instead of hiding, you choose to step into the light? What if you decided to show up fully, even if it's scary, even if it's uncomfortable? Because the more you show up with safe people, the more opportunities you'll have to realize that the things you thought made you too much are actually the things that make you powerful, unique, and capable of changing lives. Where in your life have you been dimming your light or hiding who you really are? And what is one small step you can take to walk into the light and let yourself be seen? Here is what I want you to take away from today. You are not too much. You are just right, and you are more than enough in Christ. You are called to a purpose greater than your fears. Take one step toward embracing that truth. Consider writing down the lies you've been believing and replace them with God's truth. Or share your story with someone you trust. Whatever it is, take the step. And finally, I want you to know you are not defined by whether people think you are too much, not enough, or anywhere in between. You are defined by the one who calls you his. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Email me at hello@jasonmellard.com. I'd love to hear your story and find out what is your next courageous step. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this episode with them. You've got this, and God's got you. I'll talk with you soon.